the fuck out of it, but I love it.
That's what Michaela got me for Christmas. You know, was one of those.
Yeah.
I got a super cheap
This
one.
is Macy Moore from Hop Fusion Ale Works. Come and brew it. Cheers.
Hey, we're back. And Nigel's growing a skullet. I'm gonna hold you to that, dude. No shit. In AC, everybody's gonna see it. Nigel's gonna have the skullet.
I don't think my Monday through Friday job will allow that to happen.
What's a skullet exactly?
Oh, come on, man! You were wearing this this beard thing for a while. I mean, they didn't bitch about that, right?
Beard
No,
thing?
but
Well, I mean, it was kind of like a
I don't know
neck
that it was approved.
Neck beard, got it.
Okay. Is that why they just told you had to shave, or what?
No. It was they wouldn't do that.
They wouldn't do that? Okay.
They were trying to issue ED medication for when they went home.
What?
Oh my god! That's what we call in the hood a rat tail, sir.
Oh,
I mean,
Skullet.
Fuck's sake.
that's something else there.
Yeah. Skullet.
Anyhow,
Is that
well,
big over in
and
the
that
British
counts
Isles?
as child
No.
abuse now, I think.
anyhow, so we're gonna get back to the topic.
Don't say it.
What are we doing?
Strong bitters. Do not say ESB.
ESB.
Okay.
It's not ESB.
Is there not extra
Well,
strong
it's in the
bitters?
same
Regular
category.
I
No.
mean,
Okay.
Extra special bitter.
ESB is a trademark.
Pale
Fuller's
ale.
thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
ESB is a trademark. It's a single beer.
I
It
know.
is
Okay.
not the
Okay, okay.
style.
So
Yeah.
is it a
So-
strong bitter
Actually,
or is it a special
actually,
bitter?
it's
So-
funny.
So
Well-
if we're gonna be true to the BJCP styles when we're talking about these beers, we've got to call it a strong bitter as opposed
Okay.
to an ESB.
Okay.
Fuller's ESB is where ESB transcended from.
Okay.
It is a single beer, and yes, it is one of the absolute classic beers in that style. But you know,
It's
it
probably
is-
my least favorite of that style, honestly.
It's like
Oh,
calling all vacuum cleaners Hoover, which we do in England.
Mhm.
It's like calling all facial tissues Kleenex,
I
which
quite
we do over
like.
here.
I quite like Fuller's ESB. I really
Really?
do. It's not the way I brew mine.
London
You
Pride
know,
is so much better.
Yes. I love London Pride. I do.
Yeah, I don't think you'll find many arguments there. I mean, it's a different category, of course.
Right.
London Pride being a bitter, best bitter
A
as
best
opposed
bitter.
to a strong. But,
I'm just not a big fan. I mean, I had lots of strong bitters.
Yep.
Yeah.
Better than
Yeah.
English.
How do
Well,
we
but
break down the
they used to be called English pales, or is that or strong pale ales or pale ales?
it's
British
really,
pale ales.
it's really a nomenclature depending based on what's going to sell. Okay,
Right.
so some breweries will call them bitters, some call them pale ales, some call them pub ales.
Pub
some-
ales. Yeah.
And in England now, the term amber is becoming more prevalent.
Amber. Ooh, I've heard that yet.
Marston's Pedigree, which is an absolutely fantastic bitter, it's classic English bitter, is now called an amber.
Well, that's
a classic bitter or a classic pale ale.
It's the same thing. I mean, a pale ale is a bitter in England.
I like brewing these style
But it's a
beers.
strong bitter.
Well, a pale ale could be a strong bitter or a best bitter or an ordinary bitter. It's a pale ale.
Well, yeah, they're pale.
So
But I was thinking that they at one time, I mean, in BJCP, it
well,
was
you got to remember.
pale ale, strong bitter, or ESB.
Right, so you got to remember in England there is no BJCP categorization when
absolutely.
it comes to commercial bitters. Okay, so the names of the categories over here have been created by the BJCP, and they've called them ordinary, best, and strong. There's no pale ale. There's no British pale ale. Now there may have been in different iterations of the BJCP, but
Yeah, I think the last one actually, the ESB was the same thing as
In
the
13?
English pale ale.
was
Yeah.
it the 13
Yeah.
or the whatever it was?
Yeah, it was either English pale ale or ESB.
Okay, right.
I don't even think they called it a strong bitter then.
Okay, so in the 15 guidelines, it's ordinary, best, and strong.
I can
Yeah.
see some point to not necessarily always calling it a bitter either, though, because when I try to talk to my other American friends that have never had this type of beer and try to introduce them, it's a style I like to drink a lot. I brew a lot.
Yeah.
I'm like, here, try my bitter, and they're like, oh, I don't want to drink a bitter beer.
Yeah,
it's like,
but
no,
they'll-
it's
Yeah.
not.
But then they'll go, hey, I'll take one of your IPAs.
oh God, yeah,
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
That's something I've run into at breweries and stuff in the past. Is it's really hard to sell something called a bitter.
Yeah.
It's very difficult.
And it's like, it is bitter compared
but
to
if
a
you call it
mild, maybe,
you
but
call
it's
it
not.
an English pub ale. People are all over it.
Yeah,
Right.
great.
Yeah.
It's
also-
quite retarded though if you think about it, because you think about it. I mean, some of the most bitter things on the planet, people. That's the first thing. Oh, well, you got an IPA.
Yeah.
Most popular selling style of beer. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you, there's not one single IPA in the United States that's more or less bitter than a bitter from England.
Yeah.
We
Guaranteed.
Not
have
regular one, no.
a metric shit ton of beer to get through the second
Oh,
half.
thank God! If we had a full
Oh,
imperial version,
oh,
it would
no,
just be
please don't.
unruly.
Yeah, I know. What a wonder, or what a terrible thing to happen.
No.
Too much beer.
So the first one I'm pouring here comes Stubby. I believe they are one of our good customers down in Austin, Cedar Park, Whitestone Brewery,
Oh, I love
Whitestone,
Whitestone.
yeah.
and so they brew a
They're a great
in fact,
customer.
Yeah,
in fact,
cool guys down there.
and they call this a pub ale. So
Alright.
to go deeper into what we were discussing there, they
If
call
I'm
it
not
pub ale.
mistaken, they may be using the Munton's Pale Planet
Okay.
for this. Either that or the
Okay.
Maris Otter. I'm not sure. They buy both. So
Well, I'm happy to see it's got some carbonation because it's been a week or so since I was down there. But
Well,
This,
Brian knows me. He knows
this
I'm a
is a
big
good
fan
beer.
of
Oh,
Maris Otter, so fingers crossed.
Well, if you haven't had the Planet yet, you got to try it.
I have
We-
not used Planet
We
yet.
actually, I don't think you were there for the experiment T. Michael did. So that
Oh,
was
I
one of the
was.
things.
No, I
yeah,
was. I was.
You were there for that. Yeah,
and
part of the club.
honestly, I was surprised. I didn't get as much, classic English characters I thought I would out of it. Of course, that's just me, but
One of our club members came up here to TBI and got some Golden Promise, some Planet, some Maris Otter, and he brewed the same beer, just changing the base malt. And we tried that amongst the club, and it was really great to see the small
really
differences in what base malt can do. And it's he's doing a whole experimental series right now, and he's doing yeast one time, and
that's
that
cool.
kind of thing. And
Yeah.
you just change one variable, and it's amazing.
I tried doing that last year or the year before, doing smoked beers with different smoke malts in them, and it was beechwood, oak smoked,
Right.
mesquite
That's really
smoked, cherrywood smoked, and it's very subtle differences to a base style. That's great.
As long as you didn't use peat, that's all right.
One of the things it's been
That one
really
turned out
amazing. The popularity of this Planet malt has just been through the roof, and we've had people that are using it for stouts, porters, but really where it's been really hot is for hazy IPAs. I mean, we've got
Okay.
some of the best guys in Texas using the Planet malt for their hazies instead of Golden Promise, because it's very similar in flavor and taste, but it's about $9 a bag less expensive. So it really is a highly attenuative malt. So it's really good stuff. So give it a shot.
I'm a huge believer in Golden Promise, but and I buy Golden Promise, but I'm also not running a commercial brewery, so I totally get the economics of scale on something like that. That completely makes sense.
So from my standpoint, my standard bitter has always been my clone of Landlord.
Landlord,
Yeah, and
fantastic.
and I swear for that beer by Golden Promise. I've tried it with Maris Otter and it just wasn't the same. So I use Golden Promise, but on every other English beer, on every other bitter, and some of what you're going to taste tonight, Munton's Planet, and I don't use the Pale Planet. I use the regular Planet.
Right.
And I tell you, it's
Well,
changed
like
my
what
English
I
beers up.
what I tried from what T. Michael did at our club. I mean, I really want to try it for some of my other English recipes. I want to maybe kind of try it for my Scottish ale. It's mostly Golden Promise, but at least do it once to try it. But I mean, there was really some intriguing flavors coming out of it.
Honestly, Brandon and I, for a while, we bought just a big old bag of Planet, and we were using it for every beer we made.
Yeah.
We were using it for German beers, we were using it for English, we were using it for American IPAs even, and it was just a great base malt overall.
So this Whitestone beer is actually
That's
really good.
That's really good.
It
Very
is
good.
really good. So to talk about the beer and more of the star guidelines, we'll read periodically the star guidelines as printed by BJCP. So the overall impression says an average strength to moderately strong British bitter ale. The balance may be fairly even between malt and hops to somewhat bitter. Who's singing? The balance may be fairly even between malt and hops to somewhat bitter. Drinkability is a critical component of the style, a rather broad style that allows for considerable interpretation by the brewer. I think that pretty much sums up ESB. It's
I'm sorry, what?
sorry, strong bitter. Good catch. Thank you for that.
Oh.
Shows how strong the habit is, though, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure I'll make the same mistake.
Yeah, no,
Right,
we all will,
absolutely
right?
will.
So, it's a really drinkable, easy beer. It's typically around 5.5%. Something that you're just going to get. We like to go down the pub in England at about 6 o'clock in the evening and come back about 11 o'clock and just stagger home.
Me personally, for my everyday daily drinker, I'd rather have a best. That's just me.
Yeah.
Because I like drink like 8 or 10. But if I just want to drink maybe 4 to 6, something these are great. But for me, the biggest thing of a strong bitter is the drinkability. Mm-hmm. I like the malt and hop balance. You can play within that. The caramel characters of different malts. That's all. Whatever. Any brewer can do their own interpretation of that. But the drinkability of the style.
Oh yeah.
This should be something that is not necessarily session, but close enough to session, especially for American.
This is
use what we're used to. I mean,
so the guidelines state 4.6 to 6.2%, which is a pretty big.
That's a good range.
Yeah.
I
if
usually,
you're down to 4.6, you can.
Yeah,
you
I'm
can go
usually
for
hitting
it,
around mine like 5.6. So I'm like right in the middle of that. Even then, that's
most of my beers at home. I usually aim for 6 to 7.
yeah.
But having something that's 5 to 6 means you can have a whole 6-pack
Exactly right,
or whatever you're
and still be
trusty beer
functional. Now
glasses at home.
don't go out and drive, but
No,
you can be
absolutely not,
functional
but-
to stay awake and watch a
Yeah,
movie
like,
or play a
kid
board
needs-
game and play some video games with kids.
Yeah.
Whatever you can still do stuff.
Oh, you need math help? Yeah, I think I can handle that still.
I don't know. I might do math better after you have a couple of these.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, you touched on the drinkability, the balance with these. I mean, it's very malty, but it's got a resounding bitterness that, maybe not resounding, but a nice balancing bitterness.
even.
It
that I
is a
think
noticeable.
Yeah, there's a
yeah,
sharp bitter, but the earthiness from those Fuggles, EKG, Willamette.
Yeah.
I think
Target.
that's Target. Yeah, that's really what ESB is my favorite style. I'm sorry, strong bitter.
There you go.
My bad. Strong bitter is by far my favorite style of beer.
That's two. Of,
It's 2 in a row.
How are we gonna
There
break
we
this
go.
habit?
that's two of us
Are
down.
we gonna have to pay money to Fuller's after this, or is that-
Maybe.
Maybe,
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah,
Well,
but only
I
in
guess we'll see.
the form of imported
Yeah, I do
beer.
every time I buy a 4-pack of beer from them instead of a
Yeah,
6-pack,
right.
Yeah, that's right.
and it's an 11-ounce beer instead of a 12-ounce.
Well, that is 2.7 beer units, sir. So you got to watch out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
be
do. We do
very
have that
careful
too. But so, how many of us brewed a bitter? I know I did.
I did.
I didn't for this,
Okay.
but I have made one previously.
Austin did. Brandon did, but Brandon slide out for tonight.
Yeah.
That's not true. Brandon's taking care of his wife, so that's okay.
Yeah, but this is the second time she's gotten sick for a podcast. I'm starting to
Is-
think she's.
Did he have a beer to turn in on that day?
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm
so
starting to think
so
she's
what we're trying to say
intentionally
is,
eating at these dodgy gas station
Now-
diner.
or Brandon is saying that she is, and Brandon's not turning in for these.
Maybe,
beer
but he said
turnings.
he had 2 to bring in, so
Yeah. Okay.
it could go either way here.
I trust him. Come on.
Well, that might be your first mistake.
Well, okay. I'll keep doing it until I get burned by it. That's.
Would love you guys.
Well, so
So-
we have 3 homebrew examples.
So we got
strong
yeah,
bitter.
and I've actually brought a couple of versions of mine. I got a bottle
Okay.
conditioned and a keg conditioned. Well, that's not strictly true. I've got a bottle conditioned of mine. My keg conditioned I don't think is very good, so I didn't bring it. But I do have an alternative. And of course, we got 2 or 3 commercial examples. Austin, you brought
The ESB, the strong bitter I brought was actually brewed on my home system, so
Okay,
it's not
that's cool.
It's not a air quotes commercial
Okay.
version.
All right.
I literally brewed it with the old orange 5-gallon cooler in the bucket
nice.
in my
Nice.
garage.
That's how I
Okay.
brew.
Very
That's
Yeah.
how we brew.
That's how it is. So.
So we've also got a commercial example from Kunstler Brewing down in San Antonio. Now this may be a little bit low in carbonation because it has been about a week since we got it in a growler. We've also got 2 crowlers from Funky Picnic, and I gotta say,
I haven't had theirs yet.
I gotta say, their strong
they're pretty darn
bitters
good.
are as good as I've tasted in this country.
Wow, that's high praise.
I really do enjoy their beers, so especially their strong bitters. So
To defend myself for not bringing one, I did check. Yeah, somebody looks at me and calls me a loser. I did check 8 breweries in Houston to try and find a strong bitter for the show.
We're gonna do
I
this
cut
the whole
myself.
time. We're gonna do
So
it the
far,
whole
I'm
time.
the only one still.
And while I was down there, I tried to find stouts for the next show.
okay, so
And I
what
couldn't
happened
find-
was
I found one
you got
strong
through,
bitter,
you got
and it
through
was awful.
3, started getting drunk, and then the care.
See what
started
happened was
Well, you see.
I had found one good stout, and it's a Vietnamese coffee stout, and we know we're doing vanilla stouts. Well, we're doing regular stouts.
Yeah, let's see how much carbonation is in that Künstler. That's-
They were out of Crowler cans when I was there.
Yeah, so both Stubby and I were at Künstler recently,
He's had a bunch of gushers, so I'm kind of like.
and they are a fantastic
Little
brewery
punch
down in
guy.
San Antonio. Really recommend you going to visit them if you're down there in San Antonio.
Beers are fantastic.
They,
My favorite brewery in San Antonio.
yeah,
I've never been there. I'm definitely gonna check that out
I
next
don't
time.
know if
I've
you
definitely been following them on Facebook, but I haven't been there yet.
I don't know
They've
if
got
you
a
heard
really cool
Stubby or
spot down
not.
there.
He was saying how good their food is. The food is fantastic. I was down there on Wednesdays. If you go,
Oh, that's beautiful.
they do schnitzel night, and I
Ooh.
tell you, it's
Ooh.
fantastic.
I'm getting meat sweats just thinking about it.
Yeah.
It's been in a growler for over a week.
Well, it's
Still got a
it's
good
held
amount of
carbonation
carbonation.
great,
Yeah.
so
That's really good.
you know.
So what's that on that label?
ESB.
Yeah, don't worry about what they call it. It's the style that it falls
It's an
into.
abbreviation for an extra strong bitter.
Actually, I don't think they called it ESB. I think they actually called it a strong bitter. I just said, "Hey, I
So,
want your ESB," and that's what they put on the label.
Could I get
Which
a shot here?
Vera, which she's the head brewer owner, she's actually from Germany, so she still knows how to brew some English beer too. So pretty awesome.
I had a similar encounter like that in Houston at a different brewery.
That is really good.
I like the mix on the Henshow mit Liebe, made with love. Little Spanish-German mix. I like it.
That's fun.
It
beer.
is. It's really good. It's got that. It's got enough caramel and toffee in there, but you got the hot bitterness to it. It's really good.
It's got quite a bit of hot bitterness.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It's a bit more than I expect, but it's probably because I get the
It definitely,
version
it
sent over
definitely has some
Figured you were
the hot bitterness. Yes, definitely more pronounced. But I think there's some more complex malt flavors in there too.
I get a little stone fruit cherry type, maybe yeast. And this one is really dry.
Oh wow.
It's really dry, but I don't get. Well, I mean, a little bit, like on the sides of my tongue.
It's much more like a toffee, like a
see,
lighter.
that's- I'm getting like a
Yeah.
really round, full malt, like just that round, smooth edges, nice, full English malt character. Off. That's
Get some
really
some
good.
biscuit in there as well, which I enjoy.
And I tell you,
like
it's
a-
this is a good example of the standard of their beers across the portfolio. They are really, really good.
The bitterness does drop off pretty quick on
Yeah,
it.
I
I'm kind of wish that would linger just a little more, but
I get more of a dark bread
yeah.
bitter.
It may be
flavors.
because of the age
And that's
of the beer.
exactly
in the
that's why
in the
we
ground,
haven't
so
tried it fresh
fresh,
at the
yeah.
source. Like I'm
Yeah.
reserving dry because everything
I
I'm
have.
tasting here is really great.
It's really good.
I definitely want to go down there and check this out next time.
So it's in it's just south of downtown. It's in an established neighborhood that you wouldn't necessarily foresee a brewery setting up in. Parking is pretty much non-existent. So you got, you got to get there early if you want to park out front. Otherwise, you're parking outside people's houses. But it is a fantastic brewery. The food is great. The beer's great. The people are great. They'll take great care of you. And hopefully, next time you're there, they'll have crowlers so that you can bring stuff back.
Well, I'll be down there in April for CBC. So
Okay.
Very nice.
are you going to be there? Right on.
We're going to be. Are we going to be at that brewery? Is that confirmed or?
Our party. I'm not sure what day.
Okay.
I believe it's going to be Wednesday.
How many
Okay.
weekends do I
Okay.
have to work?
Are,
to
are
get
we
into
allowed
that?
to? Are we allowed to put an exclusive out there for that, or is it still in negotiation?
Planning, so
All right, still in planning.
Gotcha.
But
that is where we're having our.
but look out if you're on the Pro Brew side and at CBC. Look out for something released by Pro Brew Supply regarding their
And if you're not
Party
signed up,
and Kunstler Brewing.
if you're not signed up for CBC yet, it's going to be a great time and a ton of information. I was looking through the like all the symposiums and stuff they're going to have. There's some really, really cool stuff they're going to be talking about. I'm excited.
That's the stuff I like digging into. Is I've
Yeah.
started following more of the pro brew side stuff, like on Reddit.
Yeah,
and get
absolutely.
Creeping into the pro brew discussion stuff, and you find a lot of really fun, interesting stuff.
That's where
in
you
there.
start diving into like isohumulones and all that kind of stuff. It's good. It's fun stuff.
It's all that chemistry you said you'd never ever use in
Yep.
high school.
all this math.
Yeah.
I have a calculator in my pocket now. So
All right, so I'm going to go first with this, and I'm going to open up what I believe is not a good example
All right.
of a strong
not
bitter.
a
And
good.
then work your way
and,
up
then-
to
and
a
then
better
we'll work our way
example.
up from
Okay.
there, okay.
Well, let's finish with mine because mine's going to be the best. So
Yeah,
All right.
yeah, there we go.
All right, let's
All right, as
go.
long as we got a good pecking order already established.
All right, well, there's a bit of carbonation in these. These are bottle conditioned. Oh,
Uh-oh,
yeah,
here we go.
see? Yeah, see, I
Up,
had my
up.
doubts.
Oh, okay.
yours is significantly lighter in color than mine will be.
Yeah, so this is my traditional landlord clone, and again, I'm not expecting good things. The keg version of this beer was not good. So, and I have another bottle if we do run out. So,
I not to be insulting at all, because you make fabulous beers for the
But-
most part, but I've never liked your landlords.
okay, that's
It-
cool.
So, several of the ones you've said have been not good are ones that I liked the most. But I think that's because the base style is something that I don't generally enjoy,
Right.
unfortunately.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
Meh.
So,
I see what you meh.
Little light
Yeah.
color.
well, the color's always that color. It's and basically because in a 5-gallon batch of this is only 4 ounces of crystal malt, so the color's always going to
Wow.
be light.
You said you use Planet as a base.
Golden Promise on this.
Golden Promise.
Yeah, this is not landlord. So the only difference from this and last year this one Blue Bonnet. Punch me in the head, why don't you?
We'll kick him in the balls in a minute. Yeah.
Which is it? I'm hearing ball kicking. What are we doing? Throwing shoes.
It could be
I mean,
anything.
you know,
It could be anything.
Hey,
everything.
the harder stuff goes to a totally different podcast, okay?
that's the after hour.
Yeah, right. So yeah, this
That's
one.
Patreons only, sir.
This one the
nice,
Stein. This one the
nice.
Stein last year at Blue Bonnet.
Wow.
And the feedback that I've got, and Greg and I got consistently last year was it was too bitter. So I cut the IBUs down by about 8 to 10, and it's
Well,
not
I think
there.
it's cut too
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, it
That's-
does.
Yeah.
You're
What's
right.
your
So-
what was your target IBU?
Well, this time was about 40. So
Oh, really?
yeah, previously it was up towards 50. So
Okay, that's higher than
Yeah.
what I go for.
Yeah.
So.
So that's right. I shoot right around that low 40s, like 42-ish. You know, it's all calculated IBUs, obviously.
Yeah.
Not measured.
yeah. So this beer and other beers of mine, I was struggling with hop utilization for a while, and so I've started throwing them straight into the kettle,
Okay.
and it helped. But then all of a sudden beers got super bitter and stuff, so I've had to
Right.
cut it back a bit. But
Okay.
So this is the one that you guys brewed last year.
no. This
Okay.
is this year's version of it that I've cut the IBUs down by
Okay.
by half a dozen.
I really,
Well,
really
so
like this
here's one of the things that I think is really biggest problem that most American brewers do with English beers. And I think they have a I won the Stein for ESB I don't know, years ago. And I was really pissed off about it because I didn't think it was a good version of it. And the reason I didn't think it was a very good version because I thought it was too bitter.
Right.
Okay. And so for me, and I think this is a big mistake that most pro brewers, home brewers, and everybody in the United States do, is they make all English bitters and or ESBs too damn bitter.
Yeah.
And one of the things that if you listen to all of our English beer episodes, the beauty of English beers, bar none, is they're balanced. they're balanced
I agree.
beers.
Absolutely.
And so every time I talk about this, to pro brewers all the time, and they say, "Well, my English beers, they just don't sell," and I'm like, and this is not a knock on these guys, is because we don't get English beers here, and the ones that we do get here are either old and or two, they are not the same versions as what you would get in the UK. They've actually had to bump the ABV up.
Yeah, there's difference in the UK beers of what you're going to get fresh there at a place versus what they're going to bottle.
And so I always get this argument that they say that English beers don't sell. And I think the problem is, more than anything, is most American brewers, and this is just it's not a knock on anybody, is most of the English brewers just have not had that much experience with English beer. And I think and that's not a knock on, and every time, Nigel, I brought some back, but Nigel always brings 10, 15 half liters back every time he goes. And
24.
I think it was. I don't think it was last year. I think it might have been the year before that episode where you had come back from one of your trips, and I was just listening and just.
And so
man, I was hearing all you guys drink all these different various.
Oh my God, they're amazing.
And so
I wanted to be there so bad.
I think that is the problem with English beer perception, is that American brewers have never really had that much experience with English beer. And they immediately go in and they go, well, I've never had an English bitter, but I want to make one, or I'm going to make an English brown, or they've had Newcastle or whatever, and they're just going to make this beer, and then they go, oh, well, shit, it doesn't sell. It's because it's not an English beer. You know what I mean? And I'm not trying to knock on people.
Beer.
It's people just don't understand what it's supposed to taste like. That's my rant, and I'm over with.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a very topical rant, because when we get into my ESB in a second, or my strong bitter in a second, sorry, I cloned this beer off of an old bottle of Fuller's, so
Ooh.
it's personally, this is what I want out of a strong bitter, but that is not to say that it is what a fresh strong bitter would be.
Well, that's
Right.
that's something we're trying to help change, at least in this area, with the Red Coat Challenge.
There you go.
Is
Yeah.
really starting to push the British brewing tradition. They've been making beer there for hundreds and hundreds of years for a reason, a certain way, and it just because it's delicious. If you
And so,
get a fresh example of it, it's amazing.
Fresh.
so
is the
you're going to
key.
be hindered then slightly, at least for now. They're getting towards that point by the BJCP guidelines.
Right.
Because
Yes.
the BJCP guidelines
This evaluation of the BJCP is better than the last one in that regards, at least. And I hope they continue moving in those lines as they continue to get more international judges and
Right.
more people that have
Yeah.
better traveled, more well traveled, and have gone over there and actually tasted
yeah,
fresh
and
examples.
don't get me
there.
wrong, Gordon Strong and everybody else have been over there, and
Right.
they've drank beers fresh from the source, and they know what they're trying to get, but they've also got to understand they're not going to get that over here, specifically, mainly, I say specifically, mainly because of the cask beer. They're drinking
Right.
cask beer over there, they're not drinking carbonated beer.
And it's hard
Right.
to have that available to a commercial customer
Right.
here because it
doesn't
usually
age.
one off.
Right.
Just let me win the lottery, and I swear I'm going to open the first cask ale
I'm with you.
small brewery
I'd
brew
be there
pub here
every
in North
week.
Texas.
Okay,
Exactly.
so
and but that's my that's my dream event.
Pipe
We all
dream,
have the
yes.
lottery dream, right? But that's something I want to do. I mean, a little cask brewery.
anybody that's out
You know.
in California and specifically LA, go to see Yorkshire Square Brewery. I'm told
You know,
it is
I
fantastic.
really think.
Anyone in Denver, go to see Hogshead.
Oh, you were that's Hogshead. Yeah, you were telling me about that.
Hogshead.
Hogshead in
But
Denver.
Van Nuys in California.
McLeod. They're one of our customers.
Okay.
Cloud.
But I really think people, if they got a chance to try these beers fresh from a local brewery that knows how to make them, you'd be blown away.
Yeah, you'll be sold
You
on
know,
it straight away.
I mean, yeah, everybody loves a great IPA. That's great. Blah 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 blah.
So
Go
that,
try a fresh
That'd be
bitter
really
or a
just sit down,
mild or
take the other
whatever.
side.
that's right. Well, so that's one of the things that I really want to reiterate. We have a really good customer in Los Angeles, McLeod. They're in Van Nuys, California, and that's kind of to go a follow up on the whole, English beer doesn't sell in the beer room or the tap room or in general. So I just went and did a visit, I guess, about 3 or 4 months ago to our customer there, and the brewer that I knew there, he's moved on to another brewery now, but it's quite amazing because it's the first craft beer brewery I've ever been to that had 6 hand pumps on tap.
Wow.
That's
and that's all they do is cask, but they also have 8 or 9 taps. They have the same beer just in regular kegs. And I'm not kidding you. This is a Wednesday night, and it was elbows to assholes in there. I mean, absolutely jam-packed.
So tall people stood next to small people?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a local colloquialism
right.
that means it's really packed.
Okay. I'll take
Just
it.
Or
like
a
the
lot of
military.
people there, yeah. So for me, I'll be honest with you, that's some of the best representation of English beers I've ever had in the United States. It was fantastic and great, and that's probably why they were packed. And so I don't think that I think that the American market is ready for that. I just think you got to be able to represent it well.
Yeah. So Brian, we're drinking your beer now.
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
So this is my take on a Scottish take on a strong bitter.
Is that the anger I can taste? Is that
that-
what it is? Anger?
The name of this beer actually is Bitter Scots.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Huh, gotcha.
There's a little Mel
That's what it
Gibson
is.
in there.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
it's the
Yeah.
ball stuck to the side of your
Braveheart.
leg
Right,
because
yeah.
you know,
So
fat
it's-
blue
stream.
face
Got
paint.
it.
That blue
It's-
face paint.
It's
That's what I taste.
it's Golden Promise base malt, with a little Crystal 45 and Crystal 120 British crystals, and then the color is actually something I had read from an article and it's something about one of the Fuller's recipes, but they use pale chocolate to color a lot of their beers.
Yeah.
They
Okay.
absolutely.
And it's
do.
got just 2 ounces of pale chocolate
Yeah.
just to color it.
I
Okay.
mean, it
So-
tastes like it has
And
a
see,
little bit of
I
like
think,
milk chocolate
and I
flavor
think
to
what
it,
that
just a
is
tiny bit.
I think maybe if it wasn't there, you would notice it, but you don't really can necessarily pick it out.
Yeah.
It's kind of like vanilla and chocolate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like
So-
if it's not there, you'll notice it, but you can't necessarily pick out the flavor of vanilla.
Mm-hmm.
In,
Yeah. So
in
I know
chocolate.
of brewers using regular chocolate malt to
Right.
color. Also black pattern and black.
Right,
just
and
the
I've
regular
and
stuff. you
I've
know.
done that also, smaller amounts.
Right. But
It
not
wasn't
pale
the
chocolate.
same.
Yeah.
I'm a big proponent of if you're gonna make a medium SRM beer, use your medium malts.
Right.
Mhm.
What's wrong with Crystal 20, Crystal 80?
Yeah.
What? Okay, so weird thing in the brewery, we had a mislabeled bag of malt, and we
Mhm.
brewed a pub ale, this style basically.
You can say it. It's okay.
If somebody mislabeled the bag, it was our English pub ale. It's still on tap right now. You can go try it.
English bitter.
The same batch that you're talking about right now.
The same batch.
Okay.
We've only made one batch thus far.
Right,
We're about to
okay.
rebrew it, but the yeah. So it was a bag of chocolate malt that got mislabeled as Crystal 80.
Oh,
Wow. That
yeah.
sounds slightly off.
That's
Yeah.
that's
Slightly.
really off.
Now the color, surprisingly, is about where we want it for a pub
Right.
ale.
Mhm.
But when you taste the beer, you can taste the chocolate.
Oh.
Yeah.
And
It's
that's-
really good, but it really does come into its own off the engine, though. That's what I was.
Yeah,
it
so
really
much
does.
sure.
So-
But
It's
it's
amazing.
it's a weird.
That
I mean,
smooth mouthfeel and creamy. It's
Mm.
great.
to me, it's just it's a bit of a cognitive dissonance there,
Yeah.
where I want some of those more middling malt flavors.
Yeah.
I want
Yeah.
more of that like caramel toffee sweetness and less of that roasted chocolate. You know.
That was.
And I've never understood why people. I mean, a ton of people, especially pro brewers, do it where they use like black patent and chocolate malt to get that color. But
It's because it's a little tiny bit
I know
to get a
but,
big result.
But if you're making a
Yeah.
Yeah,
middle-
but it's a fine balance
but
because
it matters.
you
It
can soon
really
very
turn
does.
fine balance.
you can soon turn it into a toffee bomb.
Yeah,
And,
exactly.
and you don't want to do that. And by getting the right SRM and the right color, you can overload it with crystal malts, which turns it
It's
into
true.
toffee bomb. So
Yeah,
so
that's true.
throw a little bit of chocolate malt in there to do it to get the color
Just-
for you, and you can control the caramel and the toffee a
Mhm.
lot easier that way.
Just be conservative with that chocolate and roast
Oh
malt.
yeah, I mean
very
you're literally
conservative.
talking 2 ounces
Yeah,
for a
absolutely.
5-gallon
Yeah.
batch. So you say you used which crystals in this?
So it's got some C120 and some C45.
So how much did you use on those? Because it's pretty light color for you to have to
So
use.
this is
pound chocolate,
a 6-gallon batch.
Okay.
Okay.
You've got I'll just give you the recipe. It's 12.5 pounds Golden Promise. So it's 93.5% Golden Promise. It's all base malt,
Mhm.
and then it's a half pound of C45. So 3.7% C45,
Mhm.
and then it's a quarter pound of C120.
Okay.
Okay.
So 3/4 pound.
Yeah, and
Okay.
then it's 2 ounces of pale chocolate.
Okay.
That's it. That's the malt bill.
Because that's still pretty pale for
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
for even with the pale chocolate on there,
Yeah.
it's still pretty pale.
Yeah, and then the hops on this, everybody knows Fuggles, everybody knows EKG, and everybody knows them for a reason. They're great.
They
hops.
know them because they're the
They're
best.
they're
yeah.
well. I would say if you haven't played around with Target and Challenger,
and
Yeah.
and
Give them a
Bramlin
try.
and Bramlin,
Bramlin
Cross.
Cross,
Bramlin Cross,
North
Never
yeah.
used
Downs.
Bramlin Cross,
So this
yeah.
this recipe is the primary bittering hop on it is Target, with some Challenger. I had Target at 60, Challenger at 45. I'm a real big fan of layering your hops
Yeah.
in there too.
Absolutely.
I think you get
Especially in
different
the
things
style.
from So it's Target at 60, Challenger at 45, Target at 15, and then EKG at 5.
So
it's-
it's a very similar profile to how I use my hops on Landlord.
Right.
For,
Right.
A 60, a 45, and a 15,
And then
a flame out.
And then the yeast on this, and this is kind of what I use as my house yeast, is basically it's WLP 028 Edinburgh Ale yeast.
Okay.
I really like the yeast. It's very versatile.
I'm
You
I
sorry.
can
like 28 a lot.
That's all right. You can ferment it really cool and get something very clean. Not quite 001, but pretty damn close.
Right.
Or you can take it up a little warmer, and that's actually where the thing I don't like about this beer. I took this one up even higher than I normally would to try to push those fruity esters to come out.
You got them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, you did.
But it was damn near 70 degrees fermenting this beer.
Okay.
Where normally I'm closer to like a 66, 65. And I was just trying, and honestly, that's what I don't like about this beer. The malt character is there, but the fruitiness is
It's pretty strong.
it's a little.
I wouldn't
much.
say
It's-
overpowering, but it's there.
It's
and
definitely
Yeah.
noticeable. Yeah.
It's not an overwhelming flavor, but it is definitely an
Right.
aftertaste.
Exactly.
So this is actually a question for you guys. This is something that Brian and I talked about before because I tasted this beer the last time him and I were getting together drinking. It's a pretty strong red apple. Like
That's
red
the
apple
flavor.
skins.
Yeah, red apple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Maybe
so
pear.
I was doing some reading. Acetaldehyde is typically like a light green apple,
yeah.
kind of more acidic.
Which I can't stand. I
But-
despise it.
Yeah.
But I've seen a couple of websites and a couple posts where red apple was acetaldehyde. Is that what this is, or is
I-
that something different?
And
I mean,
see,
I
I
don't know what
never-
I'm getting.
I've
here.
never known that, and I'm open to learning. Obviously,
I don't
so.
That's,
think
that's
it
I'm
is.
asking the
I
question.
think you
I
definitely
mean,
hit the nail on the head there. That's the red apple flavor.
It's
You
red
think
apple.
you think
Yeah,
it
I
is?
was
red
thinking
apple.
in between green apple or pear, but
So
red apple
double
'cause it's got a
apple?
little bit more.
It's like red
to
apple
it.
skins.
Yeah, exactly. You
Yeah.
just taste
See,
the
but a
skin
lot
of
of
a
English
red apple.
beers are going to have fruity esters like pear, and I'm not saying
Right.
this is right. This is
Oh, yeah.
a little too far for
And,
sure.
and apple and pear esters are
but they're supposed to
very-
be there.
Those are English notes. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do think
SO4.
I went too far with it for sure, and I know what happened, and I know how to fix it for future. But still,
How
I'm not going to throw this beer out. I think
No,
it's
no.
fully
Yeah.
drinkable. What do you guys
Absolutely.
think?
How
though?
long
That's-
did you leave it on the yeast?
It was about 2.5 weeks,
Okay.
almost 3.
I mean,
Because I originally thought we were going to do this 2 weeks ago, so I
Right,
was trying,
we were.
but hey,
Yeah, Nigel.
shit happens. No,
no. It's
stuff
not
happens, but
undrinkable in any form or factor.
Yeah.
It is very, very drinkable,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure it's quite too style for a strong bitter because of the apple flavors lend towards a sweeter.
I
perception.
can't say you're wrong.
Yeah.
I can't say you're wrong. I'm still enjoying it. I'm still drinking it.
Oh,
I've
yes, you
got
should.
5 gallons of this at home. Well, probably down to 3.5 now.
I'll take some of that off your hands.
Yeah, but so it's not bad. But I'm definitely going to rebrew this and drop that firm temperature down a little bit.
Yeah.
And I mean, it had a 1 liter starter on it, but I also couldn't find my stir plate, so it was kind of a manually stirred starter. So there's a few things I could do different and will do different next time. But
what I want a little bit more of that, like middling malt to it, maybe a little bit, And you guys can tell me if I'm wrong on this, but I would up our SRMs a little bit.
It's pretty light, so you could maybe up the caramel a little bit, but again, it's going to be a fine line between enough and too
I really
much.
think that if we drop some of the fruity esters down, what you
That's
want
the
is
big
going to
thing.
be
It
closer
could
to
come
be
through,
there.
yeah.
Because I've had this beer as I brewed it before at home, and it was
You said
great,
you used
And don't let the
WLP
color.
028?
I'm sorry?
You said you used WLP 028?
Yeah, 028. Yeah.
Don't let the color of the beer
No.
decide on.
See, and I used to be
changing the
that. I used to
recipe.
chase that.
Yeah.
But then when I started going for drinkability and repeatability, I started playing with water chemistry. I used Little Elm City water, just with some Camden tablets to get rid of the chloramines and chlorine and stuff. I do water testing every quarter, or if I notice a major change in my water profile, if like the lake flips or something like that.
Are you sending it off to be tested?
No, I have
or-
I have a Lamont Brew Lab
Okay.
test kit. One of the best investments I ever made. It's fantastic.
You've got me beat so far.
I have I have 2 different pH meters. So what I'll do when I start brewing a recipe,
I don't have one
the
pH
first the first probably 3 or 4 times that I brew it, I'll check pH. Mash pH, pre-boil pH, post-boil pH, fermentation pH. I'll do all that stuff you're supposed to do. Once I get the recipe kind of dialed in, I don't check pH anymore,
Right.
Because I know
You know what you're.
I know what my
range.
chemistry model is going to show me is going to work. So I just do my water chemistry adjustments with my calculators, and everything works. And I'll still go back maybe once a year or two and just kind of double check things, but it's always right in there where it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And so I don't worry about it. So once you kind of get dialed in on things like water chemistry and repeatability and all that kind of stuff, yeah, you can go and play if you want to just play with gadgets and check pH all the time. That's great. It's fun. But once math is math and science is science. And if you know these minerals and this pH level is going to produce this result, just get a good calculator that you trust and, a water chemistry calculator and trust it and use it and work with it. You don't have to go through all these steps every single time.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
you say that, but I will caution for one thing, specifically Denton, Texas, and I'm sure there are other places out there like this. During the summer, we pull our water from one reservoir.
No,
and
absolutely.
During
And
the
that's-
winter, we change it.
That's why
So be very careful about
I
that.
test every quarter, or if I detect a change in flavor of the drinking water.
Yes, absolutely.
So and that's so when we're drawing from Lake Louisville or some of the aquifers, that's what usually happens. But sometimes the lake will flip when the temperature change happens.
Absolutely.
But if you start to detect a change in the water taste, if you're going to use just untreated city water, minor treated city water, and you care about your water chemistry, check that kind of stuff, because that is where, when you start trying to dial in, especially it means something with English beers, British beers. When you try to, because there are subtle, nuanced, balanced beers, when you're trying to dial in those fine lines, that's where you start to.
Specifically
Right.
bitterness.
You
Yeah.
can it's such a, like you say, it's such a finely balanced
Right.
beer. You can soon topple over
You go
one
two or
direction
the
or
other.
another.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
I was actually worried about this because if you get those sulfides and chlorides wrong
Oh, yeah.
on your ESB,
Yep.
you're going to get a super bitter beer or a
Yep.
very unbitter beer.
So that's something I did want to talk about later on is the water profile of our beers and of how you treat them at the brewery and other stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think that is probably the most critical ingredient. Obviously, water is a critical ingredient in every beer, but I think when it comes to strong bitters and English bitters, it is the
Even more
most critical.
Absolutely.
If you don't get that water profile and if you don't get that balance set in your water, your beer just simply isn't turning out.
I would say, though, if you're just starting out, don't worry so much
Correct.
about it.
Absolutely right. Yeah.
You're going to make a good beer. We're talking about when you're starting to dial in beers for competitions, or you're really chasing a style and you're wanting something exact where it's just like, I want to nudge it just a touch here. But if you, like almost every credible brewing resource will tell you if you have good tasting water, brew good tasting beer with it.
You know, we get a lot of brand new brewers, people who are just starting up at the brewery, and they just want to ask questions. Something I always tell them is, if you're new to this, if you've never done it before, it's really not that hard to make a decent beer. It's really not that hard.
It's really not.
It's really, really difficult to make a great beer.
Yeah.
Right.
But
Yeah. So,
And I would say, and then repeat that process. That's
repeatability.
if you can repeat
That's
that,
difficult
that's
times.
where
yeah. Yeah.
for sure.
All right. So,
wait, one quick to piggyback on that. When you're starting out, write everything down.
Dude,
Write it
take-
down.
Take copious
Everything
notes.
down.
Do not drink until flame out.
Flame out. That's
oh, you guys
That's
are
too hard
boring.
to do.
okay.
It's a
So
massive
that's my
answer.
rule. When I don't follow my rule is when things like you forget to throw your whirlflock in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or,
yeah.
you know.
Or, yeah.
And then you don't end up with beer as good as
But
it
that
could be.
that bitter is not it's not hazy by any means. That's pretty good clarity.
No,
it's not great.
It's getting better.
Yeah.
This well, you had this a week and a half ago. I mean, that's
Yeah.
already improved tremendously
Yeah.
since then.
I'll tell you, the red apple has diminished significantly
since then.
from the last time I
And
had
that's
it.
also
give it
something
time.
I do. I have my kegs set up with they call it a clear draught beer system. It's basically a stainless steel float that draws from the top of the keg as the beer level drops down, and it's great, especially with English yeast,
It gets
British
clearer and
yeast.
clearer and
They
clearer.
they clear way faster.
they're
than a
pretty
lot of
good
other,
flocculators.
they flocculate out really well. 028 Edinburgh Ale doesn't flocculate out quite as good as 002, but it's pretty good.
So this next beer I'm about to pour is from Funky Picnic, one of the newer breweries in town. They've been open, I guess, 6 to 8 months.
Oh, yeah.
They do 2 English beers. This one is called Funny Accent. I don't know where they get the name from.
I don't know either.
I don't know. Hey,
And they table it.
Canadian maybe. I don't know.
No, that's a little forced.
They call it an ESB. Basically, just they've got 2. They're very similar ABVs. One's an ESB and one is an English Pale Ale. So
No, you know what? If they've got 2, that's 2 more than most places.
yeah,
do,
that's
so
right.
it's,
And
you know.
like I said earlier, I believe from what my memory is, these are 2 of the best English beers I've tasted since I've been in this country, and that's 17 years.
That's
So
really saying something. Really.
that's a big deal.
I really can't get enough of either of these 2 beers. They're really good.
I've had
Got
this
a
beer
beautiful
before.
nose.
You brought it to the shop, and
Yeah.
actually having the commercial example before this and then tasting 2 homebrew examples,
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest differences is pitching enough yeast and to make it super dry or as dry as you can possibly get it, and
Yeah.
then keeping the temperatures cool, because
Yeah.
commercial
For sure.
examples I've had have been really clean, surprisingly, for English beers
Yeah.
compared to what I might think the
That's
style
that's
might be like.
something.
A crucial part of an English beer, of course, is the esters. So yes, you want it clean, but you still got to have enough esters there to keep it within style, so to speak. And an English beer, yes, you drink it and you taste it, but you also smell it and you
And
experience it through
that's
the
kind
nose
of
as well.
it's not like that's kind of where we talk. These are basically I don't want to say English versions of American Pale because it's really the American Pale is more derivative from the English Pale. Or, American
Yes.
Pale is more American versions of an English
Right.
beer.
But the
you know,
American versions are always
they're
very different flavor profile.
I think part of it is like not just they're cleaner. You're using
Yeah.
something like a Cal Ale yeast, no 01 or whatever equivalent.
London Ale.
You're going to use something like that that's cleaner. Besides just the different hop flavors with American hop, which you look for. Oh, sorry.
We're working
something
our hand signals.
But-
something I want to be like.
But that's English yeasts tend to be fruitier, more estery.
Yeah.
Which I personally enjoy, but
And-
it is obviously
And these
able to go
those
overboard.
notes are in it, but it's more
Little
kind
more
of in the
restrained.
background
Yeah.
and restrained.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something I think people look over quite a bit with English beers versus American is that a lot of the esters you get out of English yeast, they kind of blend into the malt background, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's so okay. For instance, when I was head brewer over at Barley Board, I would do almost all of my American beers with SO4, which is an English yeast. But because those specific esters that I'm getting out of it, even at room temperature fermentation, are blending better with the malt, the beer itself tastes cleaner. It tastes more like kind of what a Kolsch yeast would do for a blonde ale kind of
Right.
thing, versus USO5 or something which is, in my experience, USO5 is very responsive to temperature. SO4 is a little more stable. So at least from my experience, and you guys can correct me on this if I'm wrong, but when you're thinking English beers, you're thinking English yeast. Don't worry about the esters, in my opinion. The esters will figure themselves out. Just keep it moderately cool, 65, 68, and then it'll kind of balance itself out.
So I typically ferment my English beers at 64.
64?
Mm-hmm. And I have yet to brew a beer with SO4 that I've enjoyed.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
I've had plenty of other beers, and Brandon says the same thing.
I've actually heard Brandon talk about that
Yeah,
before.
he's had plenty of other beers of other people's that have enjoyed SO4. He just doesn't.
He's actually gotten
use it.
really angry at me for that.
Uh-huh.
I've given him beers, and he's like, "What yeast do you use?" I'm like, "SO4." And he's like, "You son of a!"
So
Yeah.
okay,
I
so
love
when you've
SO4.
used this, I know we're kind of going a little bit off, or woo woo, off topic train. Here we go. But so with you use SO4, I've had better results with my darker beers.
Yes,
With it.
Right.
100%.
With my paler beers, I'm going to do better with like an 05 or Cali Alt.
I've never used a lighter colored beer SO4.
I have, and I have not enjoyed them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when I've done stuff like porter, stouts, browns, things like that,
Yeah.
and I've used an 04, it's
See,
come out well.
See, I use for my dark English beers, I use Mangrove Jack Empire.
Empire M36,
Mangrove Jack used to make a
M15.
M15. Sorry.
Mangrove
feel
Jack
like-
used to make a strain in there. I think it was their last generation or the one before that. They called it Newcastle.
Yeah.
That was amazing for a sweet stout milk stock. That is
Yeah.
it's
So
amazing.
I believe that is the new Empire.
Is it?
I believe so. I
I'll have
believe
to
they
try that
transferred
then
it.
again. Actually, funny story. Several years ago, first time I ever met him, it was Greg that actually turned me on to that yeast.
Yeah.
And that's the first time I ever met Greg.
Yeah.
So we started having a great conversation about
The-
dark
the-
beers
the-
and that yeast.
The Jack strains that I've used have been M36 and M15. It's
Yeah.
Liberty Bell or
Yeah. M15 is Empire.
or
Yeah.
Empire. But
yeah.
one of our other former employees, he insisted on using a strain that they don't carry anymore. It was like a workhorse or warhorse.
Yeah, and Mangrove Jack Workhorse. Yeah.
Yeah, workhorse, and he absolutely swore by it, and it had this great distinctive flavor for English yeast.
So the Mangrove Jack yeast that they no longer do that I swore by was MO7, which was their British Ale yeast, and it was
Yeah.
really fantastic.
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
Yeah.
They've moved on from that.
Things
so,
happen. Stuff
yeah.
changes. Yeah, it's-
So
Circling back.
so now this beer from Funky Picnic. What's your thoughts on that? Oh wow!
It's got a
okay.
beautiful nose.
I like it. It's good.
But wait,
It just kind of falls off too quickly for me.
It's got a. I think the
Um,
bitterness is wrong.
what wrong by?
It's a different experience than when you have.
it doesn't
know?
It's not as firm. I don't know.
Yeah,
it doesn't
it's
linger.
not as firm.
I don't need
but
it to like
it's-
stay around forever, but I'd like it to hang out a little bit longer.
Right.
You talked about this is one of the best beers, English representation that you've
I
had.
prefer the other one myself.
And I fully,
But I know of others
obviously
that
you
I-
being from there and trying to be fresh all the time. I would say one of the best beers I've had as a aficionado of English beers, London Homesick from Oasis.
Okay. Yeah, I tried to get some and I failed to get some for
I
this week.
love. It's not this style.
Yeah.
It's just a best better. But
Yeah.
I love that beer.
I've-
That beer is amazing.
I've had that when it's been really good. I've also had it when it's been really bad.
I have.
And
Well,
when
maybe
it-
I've just gotten very fortunate. then.
when it's really bad, it's really bad. Not that I've had it bad very
Yeah.
often, but I've had it on more than one occasion. It's not been.
Something we can get kind of around here is
Yeah.
usually fairly reliable is Community's Pub Ale.
Yeah,
which
yeah,
Public Ale.
and we probably
And
should have got.
It's good.
We should probably
Well,
should have
that
got
one-
some. out
yeah,
for
we've got
tonight.
some at
Oh, you do.
my
Okay.
girlfriend's apartment. Yeah, it's
that one is more bitter.
English Ale Pub
It's
Ale.
more of an American bitter to me than
There is some
um,
stuff in it that is not necessarily
this.
traditional.
This
but
I
it-
really, really enjoy this beer. And my friend Betsy works at Funky Picnic, so she's
Okay.
gonna be muling me some beer
There you go.
here soon. Now that I've had this, but I think the bitterness is it's off on the front note, right? So it like cleans up nice, which I like. I'm not a big fan of a lingering bitter. I know it's appropriate for a strong bitter style, but going into it, it's more of a like an American start to the finish, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
I agree with
You
that.
know who else makes a really good English bitter? Is this company up in Denton? They make a really nice pub ale. I wish we had like a
Armadillo?
brewer.
Okay,
I wish we had
is
like
it
a brewer
Armadillo?
from Denton County Brewing Company that could have
Barley
brought us
Board or
some
I-
pub ale.
I-
Maybe
But-
we got some in the back.
oh,
I
do we-
wish
do we-
that-
do- oh no.
Not
we
only did we
don't.
have a guy from that company with us, that there might have been some here to sample.
Well, I actually didn't bring that beer.
I know.
I know. I brought.
I
my
know.
own.
You brought one that you're touting to be better.
So what we're
I
gonna
didn't
need.
say better than that beer. I said better than your beer.
What we're gonna need is sometime in the near
Specific.
future. I mean, obviously not this weekend because this weekend is gonna be Iron Mash. But sometime in the near future, we really need you guys to come up to Denton, come up to Denton County. Let us know when you're coming up. Come up as a group, whatever. Come up as part of Cap and Hair or Texas Brewing Inc. or come and brew it, whatever. But come up there and let us, host you guys and
Um,
I mean, we might
Why not?
need a studio space in the near future.
Yeah,
so-
yeah.
Well,
I'm not
I
sure
got
we
the
need one 30
perfect
miles
space
away,
for you.
but-
Hey,
That's a good idea.
I don't know. Have you guys
Speaking
been?
of
Have you guys
that-
been up to the brewery before?
I've
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the back, like in the actual brewing area, we've got what we call the barrel room. It's basically a massive area with 2 super long tables. So it's actually perfect for this. So come on up. And anytime any of you guys are coming up, just shoot me a message on Facebook or whatever. I live 10 minutes from the brewery. So
please, for the love of God, make it on a weekend because I work Monday through Friday. But make it on a weekend so I can come
So
up
do
there
I.
and hang with you guys.
I'll
yeah,
be
we
honest
just got
with
to
you
travel
guys.
the 40 miles back. That's
Oh,
all.
for fuck's
Well,
sake! We
I
travel
traveled
down here for
I
you
traveled
guys
the
all
40
the
miles
time.
here. What are you
I
talking
know.
about?
I'm saying,
I know. I hear you.
I'm half an hour from home, and I have a 40-minute commute getting here. So
I hear you.
Yeah.
Oh wow!
So this particular beer that we're drinking now is another of Funky Picnics. This is Blind Sally.
which
so
is one of my favorites.
so yeah, I know. Now we're talking. right?
That yeah,
That's-
man.
So the
That's
history
something else.
behind this beer is they did a beer dinner, a tribute beer dinner,
Yes.
and they do a beer dinner once a month.
Mhm.
And this particular beer dinner was
Just a tribute.
No,
Oh.
this okay. So they do a
Not
themed
the actual
beer
beer.
dinner every
It's always a
month. This
tribute.
particular
Good
beer dinner that they did was a tribute to 4 local breweries, and they
I
did
heard about this.
they did a tribute to Ra, they did a tribute to Martin House, they did a tribute to Collective, and they did a tribute to Pedicolas, I believe it was. So they did a tribute beer to Velvet Hammer.
Yeah.
They did a tribute beer to a Martin House beer and a Collective beer, and this was a tribute to Blind Salamander that used to be released by Ra.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So this beer came off the Ra portfolio.
I miss a lot of the old raw beer.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, and so
Their
they
English IPA. Oh my God.
they asked Ra if they could brew this, and Ra said, "Sure, go ahead." And I believe that the main change from the original recipe to this recipe is the hops. They changed something in the hop profile of it. But I tell you, this is the one. When I say this is probably my favorite English beer since I've been over here. This is it.
This is the
Yeah.
one I want.
Yeah.
This
I could
yeah.
drink a lot of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is this on tap at Funky Picnic now?
Yes.
It is?
Yes.
Okay. Let me text Betsy. real
There you
quick.
go.
See that bitterness just hangs around just a little bit longer. It just kind of carries through a little more for me. I mean, obviously it's all subjective.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the beer I want to drink.
Yeah,
A lot of.
it's a fantastic beer. It really is.
It really is.
So this
What's
Brian-
this called?
Blind Sally.
Blind Sally.
so it's labeled as an English pale ale. And
Yeah.
it's 6.1.
Yeah,
Is that falling into?
That's
the,
No.
that's
No.
a strong bitter.
it's
That's a
well,
strong
it is actually because I think 6.2 is the
That's
top
what-
end.
Yeah,
So
6.2
yeah,
is top. So
yeah.
Brian,
So-
earlier when we were talking about the one that you brought,
Yeah.
this is the middling malt character I was talking about.
I totally
Yeah.
That's
Like, there's got to be some C60, C80 in here.
I believe there's some special B.
Yeah, there's some in mine as well.
okay.
So
And that's I'm still learning. I'm still
Yeah.
playing.
Yeah.
Like.
And I'll tell you,
I've definitely got some changes I might make eventually.
when I learned there was special B in here, it kind of knocked me for 6 because special B is it's a malt that's either there or it's not there.
or not.
Right.
And if it's there, boy, does everybody know about it.
Right, and that's
You
I've
know.
kind of been reserved in using it because I've
Yeah.
used it too much in
Yeah.
my early brewing
Yeah.
career, and
Yeah,
obviously
and again,
not good results.
to quote Brandon on from previous episodes, he said, as soon as you tell about special beer there, it's too much.
okay.
You know.
Well, okay. Again, like a lot of things, though. Okay, we're talking drinkability, balanced English beers.
Yeah.
I said it with the pale chocolate. It's one of those things where you don't necessarily can pick it out, but if it's not there, you notice it.
Yeah.
But if you
Yeah.
take it too far, it's like, whoa.
I think it's a
that's-
matter of depth. You
Yeah.
know, Special B is one of those things. If you use it in a small amount appropriately, it can add a whole other layer of malt
Well,
complexity.
like that's what I do with my hops, but
Yeah.
I think maybe I need to start doing that with my malts a little more. Throw a little more
Um,
crystal malts in the middle.
Yeah, be
you know?
careful because if you go too far on that spectrum, it
Right.
just all muddies together.
Right, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've had that problem with some of the American
yeah.
beers I've done, but that's why I've tried to do more and more base malt because I want fermentability, drinkability.
I would say
things like that.
throw like one thing, like in this beer, for instance, they've got, base malt, maybe one or two specials, and then
Yeah.
Special B,
Okay, yeah.
one thing,
Right.
Yeah.
that is,
Well, I always-
it'll
and that's-
push it more towards that middling.
That's
flavor,
something else.
you
If
know?
you really, when you get you get a recipe, it's pretty good, but you want to dial it in, change one thing at a time, guys.
yeah,
Change one
For
thing
sure.
at a time and
for sure.
see what that does, and then do it something again.
Where's the fun in that?
Yeah, you
I'm
might as
well-
well brew a different beer every time.
Yeah,
It's
there you
fine.
go. But
Hey, and there's nothing wrong with that. If if you want to just throw something together and brew something totally different and cool every time. I mean, I did that for 12 years.
I'm gonna start
there's
doing that
nothing
at the
wrong with
brewery.
that. Yeah, I don't know if that's your business model.
You guys are gonna come in, and it's gonna be like there's never gonna be anything consistent on the
Oh, for
board
fuck's
ever.
sake.
It's just gonna be different every time you get
Oh
there.
my God.
there you go.
What have we done?
So, come on then. It's your turn.
Let's do it.
Let's
All
do
right.
it.
All right, brother.
I've got another
right.
beer, but it's kind of off the
All right.
conversation. But I want to see what your thoughts are on this afterwards. But I want to hear. What you got here.
All right.
Oh, there
I
you
was
go.
going to say performance
There
issues.
we go. Yeah, sometimes it happens,
It's more common than you might think. 1 in 5, if you might believe.
All right, if you wanna.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll pass it around here, or we can do that. That works too.
Pass the glasses around.
Let's
Yeah,
pass them
you
around.
have one missing.
So-
sir.
Are we
So
pup
tell
up
us about
yet?
your beer, Austin, while we're pouring it.
So this beer is modeled after Fuller's, which
London Pride or ESB or
ESB.
Okay.
Which I love. It's a good beer.
And
It's
it
a
is
great beer.
Yeah, and it's modeled after, like I said earlier, a little bit of an older ESB because that's what I get here.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I don't have a fresh example. to
Complete
brew
with
it
free
after.
cardboard or
What's that? I'm
You know,
sorry?
that's actually something that
Oh,
I'm going
wow.
to start looking for is I know that some of the military class 6s have fresher examples of some of these import beers. And as of the first, I have access to those military class 6s again. I'm going to see if I can start getting some of them fresher imports.
Oh man, I would love that. So I brewed this beer to replicate what I taste of Fuller's here in America.
You came pretty damn close. I'm going to tell you that.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm very, very happy with how it turned out. I was talking to Brian a couple days ago. I was like, man, I don't know. It kind of went through a weird thing with fermentation.
I was like, yeah, don't wuss out, man. Bring
And,
it. Come on, dude.
A weird thing with fermentation, but then after carbonation and being cold, and it turned out really nice.
It tastes like buying an English beer off the shelf,
It does.
It,
That
yeah,
was the
it
goal.
really does.
which
Yeah.
is both a compliment
And
and
not- yeah.
not because only
I know.
because we've tasted
But
fresh from
but
Nigel.
but I will
Exactly.
say, okay,
Um,
so like we've all had stuff from our childhood, like
Mad Dog 2020.
yeah, like crappy
Oh.
stuff we shouldn't necessarily
Oh, no.
enjoy, but not even that, but like
Wait, you
Yeah.
drank Mad Dog 2020 as a child?
and he still
Well,
does.
don't-
And he's still
Yeah,
here.
he still does. Yeah.
What
don't
did
judge
you
us down
drink?
here in
Out of-
Texas.
out of
Don't
his-
judge us.
And he still drinks it out of his sippy cup.
Well, also like
And
Chris,
that's the way you're supposed to drink it, right?
Chris, you're ex-military, right?
Yes.
Yeah, don't fucking judge us, all right? We did a lot of shady shit when we were in the army.
If I don't come down with
there's a
20
reason the way
special,
you are.
unique kinds of cancer, I'm going to count myself
Yeah.
lucky.
Yeah.
Or superpowers. Have you thought about that?
We've all
could
thought
s-
about that. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
We're not off.
Yeah,
I threw my
I still
back out
haven't-
getting out of bed the other day. Pretty sure I'm not getting superpowers.
I still haven't given up yet.
Let's
I'm
go back to the
24.
normal beer discussion, though.
Normal beer. So mine's a little bit darker than what we've
A
tried.
little bit.
Little bit.
Yeah,
I think it's still in the
close to
guidelines.
that. It's close to that last Funky Picnic beer, but it's
Yeah.
slightly. What the hell?
So I know what you were saying. You wanted to get to, and while
that
I
growler's
would
also full.
I mean,
so.
Well, I
I'm-
wouldn't say Fuller's ESB is really what you necessarily should be shooting for ESB. It does hold a special place in my heart because it was one of the first commercially available when I started drinking examples of British beers.
Honestly, getting that sort of old bottle
That
flavor
old-
in a fresh beer
yeah.
is really
I
kind
like
of a
it, dude.
special,
Yeah.
wonderful
I
thing.
really like it.
It's got that. It's got quite a big toffee
Toffee,
note
yeah.
to it.
Real sweet malt.
Yeah, and it's
that-
actually got quite a sweet finish
Yeah.
to it
Yeah.
as opposed to the dryness.
Yeah.
You know.
I think this would score really well, just because this is what Americans are used to and they're
Yeah.
reaching for.
I think you're
that's,
yeah,
that's what
absolutely.
I believe it for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're gonna be like, oh
wanted-
my god, this is a 42, 44 point beer, you know?
Yeah.
So malts on this Maris Otter base, about 8.5% each. Crystal 20, Crystal 80, and then about 2.5% Special B.
Okay.
Just a little bit, just a dash of Special B in there.
So tell me why you use Special B, based on what we discussed earlier.
Well, so like I said, this is all from me tasting Fuller's. I wanted that kind of raisiny kind of thing, that more of that sweeter caramel that's going on.
Yeah.
And that's what Special B gets for me, especially in low quantities. I mean, if you go too high with it, it definitely turns into more of a. I don't know if you guys have ever had J.W. Lee's Harvest Ale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very raisiny, especially if you go too much. But yeah, that's what I was going for. Was just that age character.
Yeah.
I think that's where the Crystal 80 and the Special B kind of mix together to make it work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did y'all mash
what do you think, Stubby?
at a different temperature for this?
It's good. So I would say this though. I think a lot of people get confused with, and that's not to say this is what you're thinking, but Special B to me is just a dark crystal. Right. It's a 120 or 150. Like for English, usually a dark crystal in English is 150. So I think those are interchangeable. I think a lot of times people get hung up on the Special B, but I think you can get the same characters from a dark crystal English malt that you can from a Special B. But I get what you're saying though. You do get some of that kind of raisiny dark plum fruit flavors, but this is really good. I really enjoy it.
Thank you. Mash temperature, it was about the same, like 154 target. The other thing I forgot to mention earlier, add a little bit of flaked oats to this, just a little bit, because that gives it. You know when you drink a beer off a beer engine and it's got that softness to it?
Yeah.
That kind of
That mouthfeel.
mouthfeel.
Yeah.
That's, yeah.
So I added that to kind of replicate, it makes the mouthfeel a little bit more, that kind of thing. That's what I was going for.
Okay.
So.
Cool. So this beer I'm pouring now is a little bit off the beaten track, but not that far. This is brewed as an English IPA.
Thank you, sir.
Really?
Yeah. So
Underappreciated style.
yeah,
Very
and
underappreciated.
and not very easy to brew considering.
Rars,
Stormcloud was really good.
Oh my god! And honestly, Shannon Brewing's their original IPA. Their Shannon was basically an English IPA.
Right.
That was great beer.
It may squeeze in to strong bitter.
Really?
It may not. I'd be interested to hear what your feedback is, which is why I left it last.
Well, I think the bitterness is where it should be for strong bitter. The difference, I think, and what makes it more of an English IPA is that floral hop.
That hop
note.
character.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That hop character.
is much different.
Yeah, that.
Yeah.
I would not score this well as a strong bitter. It would score better as an English IPA.
I absolutely agree. The malt bill, totally. I mean, it would be totally fine. I mean, if you look at the color.
Yeah.
It's dead,
Yeah.
dead on. Clarity is good. Head
And
retention's good.
there's a nice little caramel sweetness to it that
Yeah.
you get from most British beers. Things like
Yeah.
But that hop character.
It's the floral aroma. That's the difference between an ESB
Yeah.
and that.
And so that partly proves the experiment that I was wanting. Is it's a subtle difference between an English IPA and an English bitter,
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely.
sure.
but it is a difference.
It
There
is a
is a
difference.
big difference.
Absolutely.
So,
Ow. I'm sorry.
sorry,
Yeah.
did you say ow or
I-
wow?
I said wow.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Y'all were talking and I got distracted and I finally got a full taste and that was a pop.
English
Yeah.
IPAs are so interesting. And if you're a home brewer, I highly recommend this. I did this. So I was a home brewer before I became a professional brewer, I think as most professional
pro
brewers
brewers,
were.
yeah.
And I did this as a home brewer, but brew an English IPA with English hops and then taste it. And then brew your more delicate styles.
Yeah.
Because it helps you understand what English hops are, what they can be, and how to use them appropriately.
Yeah, and so they're very. I think they're very underrated hop.
Absolutely.
Oh, of course.
As in, they don't give the big flavor pops that American and New World hops give.
Well, it's not full of tropical fruit.
Right,
and,
that's right, yeah.
All that
But
stuff.
they do round a beer out in the right way.
Absolutely.
I agree.
And so I think that's a great example. Brew an English IPA, get some of that pop, and then tone it down a little bit and understand where the
Now, of
roundness
course,
comes
Yeah.
from.
to be fair, different strokes for different folks. There's people
Oh,
out
yeah.
there who just want to brew New England style, juicy fruit bombs, blah blah.
Yeah,
blah.
but we don't talk to those
That's
people.
great.
Yeah.
No, well, I mean that's great though. I want all people represented, but if you haven't tried these before,
Yes.
Yeah.
give
Try
it a
it.
chance.
Yeah.
Okay, so like Target. I love Target as an English hop. If you start using that in high quantities, you start to really get some nice mint characters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
from it, things like
Yeah.
There's things from English hops. Everybody thinks dirt.
Yeah, that's right.
know,
it's not just all
It's,
Fuggles.
it's
right.
not just
Yeah,
everything's
that's a
fuggles.
common thing, but
That's a common thing.
there's a lot of
But I-
really good
Okay,
earthy
so like
flavors
so
that
like
come from those.
Fuggles to me, I love Fuggles. Fuggles is you're out in the woods hunting or whatever, and, maybe not hunt, but anyways, you get down behind a tree and you shove your nose down in the dirt like that.
Yeah.
That can be kind of
do that?
Fuggles
Yeah.
sometimes,
But at the same
But
time,
then,
it can be
EKG.
fine scotch.
No, yeah, exactly. But Target or
Or
EKG
Willamette.
is more,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you take a walk through an English garden and smell those earthy aromas and fruity
Yeah.
and
So there is
floral.
a
Like there's a whole range of different things you can get out of English hops.
Yeah.
Beyond that earthy, loamy.
yeah. So there is
Yeah.
a
Dirt
grandmaster.
flavor.
There is a Grandmaster 2 judge that we all know that may or may not have been on this show many times.
James
Or
Lalonde.
have his own show.
Yeah, and also have his own show with Brandon called
James
Final
Lalonde.
Gravity. Yeah.
Hashtag.
When he does an
I
English
like
bitter,
that. Hashtag.
he swears by blending EKG and Fuggles at 60
I've-
and EKG and Fuggles towards the end of the boil,
That's
and
what I
that's his
started
hop
doing
profile.
too.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
All
Are
my
you with
English
him?
beers,
Yeah.
I've done the same thing.
Yeah,
And,
and it
it
gives a great
works.
beer a great profile. It really
Yeah.
does, and it works. I've tried it, and it's fantastic.
Okay, I mean,
Not that I should doubt what he said, but it's you
but
know,
it,
it
Yeah.
comes
this is
out
something I've
exactly
kind of
as he
said
says.
before too, and it applies to a lot of German beers too. But they've been brewing beers like this with these ingredients in England for hundreds of years.
Yeah,
yeah,
Why?
because they're good.
Because they're good. Because they
Well,
work. Because
they work. I'm not going to say because they're good, because that good is subjective, but
This
because
is
they
true.
work.
This is true. This is true. But it works.
That's
But
not an insulting thing, because I saw the side eye from
Oh
Nigel.
man.
No, sorry, I didn't. Not even sure I caught the comment. So.
It's because they work and they're balanced and they lend to.
Nigel's still pulling out beer. I don't know if I'm ready for all this.
well, that's
Oh,
not-
you're ready for this, sir.
but and
Oh,
that's
buddy.
again.
You're
Here we
pro
go.
liver.
I hope
I do
everybody.
have a pro liver.
Dude, you and I last Oktoberfest, bro. I don't want to hear it. We were killing people.
We
I
didn't
mean,
kill anyone.
We tried, basically.
Officially.
I mean, you tried.
So
I
okay,
kept you. It's
so
fine.
he and I last Oktoberfest. Side note, we're sitting there drinking, Oktoberfest by the Stein.
Stein.
Yeah,
you
by
know,
the Stein.
Stein.
Liter at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a
and
good.
we're just pounding them back.
It was
You
a
know?
good
Later
Oktoberfest.
host this
Yeah,
year.
we were just pounding them back. And
did
everybody
Nigel
else
sub
around
to?
us is like, dude, what's wrong with y'all? Like, we're like, what? They're like, are y'all professional alcoholics? We're like, no, we're
I'm
well
professional
trained.
homebrewers and
brewer,
pro
thank
brewers,
you.
and we like drinking. Like, what are you talking about? We're
Look,
you
man,
know,
I train
dude,
every day.
Like, this is what we live for. Like, what are you doing? You know?
We said the same thing out of the military. It was,
Yeah, no, exactly.
oh,
Dude.
let's have 800 milligrams of ibuprofen
Ibuprofen
3
and
times
water.
a day.
Yes.
And then
Yeah.
you tell that
Dude.
to a normal doctor, and they go, "What the hell is wrong with you? You're gonna kill your liver and
So-
kidneys." You go, "Nah, it's
Nah,
good."
you're fine. Little
It's
Ranger
fine,
candy,
it's
you're all
fine.
right. You're fine. You're fine.
So what you're pouring now is a bottle conditioned version of that IPA.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So
Which
I mean,
IPA?
I mean
Refresh my
of the
memory.
English IPA.
Okay.
So I want to see which.
I do want to say real quick before I get to the bottle condition, this version, is anybody else getting a little phenolic?
Only on the very edge
I-
of the
I
aftertaste.
can
what
be
what type
overly-
of phenolic?
I can be overly sensitive to phenolic. This is a me thing.
Yeah, what
But
kind of
it's-
phenolic?
I get a tiny bit of cough
Always knew there was something weird
medicine,
about you.
I'm
and,
overly sensitive.
Band-Aid at the
Band-Aid,
very
that's-
edge.
It's a little.
Band-Aid?
Only
little
a little,
Band-Aid-y.
little tiny bit, but that
It's
that
not. It's
flavor
not
blends
unpleasant.
in with other things.
It's not unpleasant.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of times I would think it would be unpleasant,
You're
but it's
right.
working
I've
here.
looked at Band-Aid once. It was very pleasant.
Well, you know, yeah.
Well, see if you get it on the bottle.
Well, you are from
conditioned version.
Oklahoma, so
Yeah, there is that.
Somebody's got to be from
That's a
Oklahoma,
national
okay?
pastime up there, right?
Otherwise, it
Looking
would just be a
Band-Aids?
bar.
Yeah. No, it's doing meth, but we do.
I was
about to say,
we look
I
Band-Aids
was
in our
from Oklahoma.
pastime.
The national pastime was making meth via the Nazi method. That's
Exactly.
fine.
Yeah. Now I did get a little phenolic, but it was mostly covered up by the ester profile. Honestly,
I thought
It,
that
it
blended
wasn't
in.
unpleasant. It was not
Yeah.
unpleasant.
if there was anything there, honestly, I'm surprised you picked it up. And B, I wouldn't even, in judging, consider it an off
this,
flavor.
No,
this
I
right
wouldn't
here is
consider that an off
more
flavor.
pleasant.
The bottle,
I,
the bottle condition.
I enjoy this. Yes.
Is
The
it-
only reason I mention it is because he found a little bit of it and was trying to identify it.
Yeah.
It's not an unpleasant. I wouldn't classify it as a flaw.
Is it more of a strong
It's-
bitter?
It's one of those
Mm.
different people detect things at different levels, and
I-
we have some
I-
people that we know that go, "Oh, that's butter every time."
Yeah.
Dude, I have
I
a really
also- I got a good buddy that does
high
that.
threshold for that. Like I love a butter bomb beer.
Yeah.
That tastes great to me.
Almost every
Nigel?
time someone says it's a butter bomb,
Strong
I go,
Scotch
"It's
ales,
amazing."
things like that. Like I love all that stuff.
This,
Phenolics are kind of like I get like.
yeah, the bottle conditioned version of this beer, I would personally rate higher as a strong bitter.
I would too.
The reason is it's way more earthy.
Yeah.
And it's very, very clear to me that earthiness is yeast derived, not hop derived. But if I were to taste, like if you submitted this to a BJCP competition and I tasted this, I'd be like, man, that's the earthiness I'm looking for.
Right.
Regardless of if I know where it comes from or not. The only reason
Okay.
I know it's yeast derived is because I tasted the other one.
Right.
The bitterness is spot on this one, and I think it's because that earthiness really helps to balance it. It's super interesting. That's a pretty big difference.
It
between
is.
those two
It is.
Yeah,
beers.
I tell you, one's bottle conditioned, one's not.
That's really that's the
This-
only difference.
I don't get English out of this.
You don't get English out of this.
Oh,
get-
really?
I
I
get-
think it's
it's
super
Belgian.
English out of it.
I get super Belgian. I get
Ooh, I didn't
bubble
think
gum
Belgian.
and spice.
I get
out
a
of
little
this.
bubble gum. Yeah, I get a little
And
banana.
especially on the nose, I get a lot of bubblegum smell.
Okay.
That's true. I
scent.
didn't even think about that.
And it was one of those things. I stuck my nose in it, took a scent. And I'm like, that doesn't. No, that's wrong. Let me smell it again. Let me swirl it again. Let me smell it again. And it was. I got bubblegum, and I'm like, that's not okay. Well, taste it, and no, I get bubblegum as well. And
Yeah, I get some banana. That's super interesting.
yeah, I get a little bit of banana, but not like banana. I get Runts banana, artificial banana.
Yeah. What? Hey, Nigel, what was the yeast on this?
It was 1335 British L2.
Oh, okay, cool. That's interesting.
I think it's probably or might be contributed to the high carbonation of this in the bottle.
It's
you know,
much
it's
more
very
carbonated.
effervescent.
Very
So
effervescent.
we might be picking
Yeah.
up little nuances.
Yeah, that's
true.
right.
That's
Yeah.
very
Um,
true.
Yeah, it was pretty
It's,
lively.
it's pretty carbonated, and that dryness factor just goes way up on this
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
man, I'm an American. I enjoy drinking this one more than the other one
Hey, that
because
works.
of that carbonation and because
Right.
I didn't even think about the banana, but it's very much there. When he said it, like it's very much there. Um, man, I don't know.
When I switch
They're-
back to the
they're
other
very
beer,
close.
they do have the same yeast profile still, and
Yeah.
kind of that banana.
This is
It makes me
Okay.
feel
Yours,
like
yeah.
it makes me
Yeah,
feel
it's
like my
mine, yeah.
ESB is very much an outlier because it doesn't taste like
mean-
anything else we've tried today.
Right.
of all the ESBs ESB
Strong bitters,
presented
whatever.
Strong bitter
or strong
yes.
bitters as it
There you
is
go.
the style. It's kind of all over the place as a American presented style.
As a style, yeah. Well,
Which-
BJCP is very liberal with it.
It is,
Yeah.
and that's because everything for commercial style is commercial example is imported and
Well,
it's
it
been on a
says-
slow boat
well,
and
it
it's
says
sat
that,
on a shelf.
Yeah.
A rather broad style that allows for
Yes.
considerable interpretation by the brewer. Is that
And-
necessarily like what we have or what it should be?
And that's the thing.
Maybe a
is
little
the
both?
BGCP styles guidelines are mostly what we have as examples.
Yeah.
And as we broaden as a more global trading society, and as we have more Nigels available who visit family and bring us fresh examples,
You hear that, Nigel? You're a hot commodity, my friend.
They can't afford me
I
anymore,
mean,
fuckers.
I try
Nobody
not
can
to
afford
present
you.
it in that fashion.
Hey,
don't
I don't
let
have
him
to
get
deal
too
with
big of
them.
a head.
For
I get to
obvious
leave.
reasons, because he's going to get stolen by another beer podcast.
Right.
Taken for granted is what it's called.
Ah, yes.
Yes.
Not valued. Take it for
Yeah.
granted.
But these flavors are volatile for what a stronger bitter is,
So that's
and they don't last,
that's
and they
something
devolve
else.
into a different flavor.
Yeah, that's something else. I haven't read the guidelines 100%, but in my opinion or experience, ESBs and strong bitters should be very aromatic. And that's something I don't get out of a lot of beer. Not sweet finishing necessarily,
No, there shouldn't be sweet finishing.
No,
but the malt. You should be able to smell the malt.
You should be able to
Yes.
smell the malt. You should be able to smell the hops. You should
Yes.
be able to smell the esters.
and
So-
not overly bitter.
Right.
But-
So from that aspect, yes, it should be very
Yeah.
aromatic because you should have all three aspects of them.
Exactly. And that was another reason I
know.
went with Special B.
Yeah.
Special B is, and I know Stubby says it's basically just a darker malt, but Special B to me has always been more aromatic as a whole for malt, and it's that little extra like punch,
Yeah.
you know.
I'm
So
curious.
take the guidelines, right? Aroma, hop aroma, moderately high to moderately low.
It
Excuse me.
doesn't matter
Kind of
what it
all
is
over
that
the
at that
place.
point.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Typically, a floral, earthy, resiny, and or fruity, which means it can be
Resiny
pretty
is
much
odd
anything.
to me.
Well,
Yeah, the resiny kind of. I was like, really? Like,
so yeah, the
but I
res-
guess. I mean,
the
okay.
resiny I don't get. What I will tell you is, if you go over to England, so many more of the breweries now are doing bitters with American style hops. So depending on what hops they're choosing, you might get more of that. But you're certainly going to get more piney, more citrus.
Well, that comes across to me just as a pale ale. I mean,
Yeah.
which is fine,
Right.
Well,
But
Yeah.
Yes, but an American pale ale, that
Right.
hop flavors
I mean, it's-
and a hop aromas are going to be more of a punch.
Yeah.
for a I mean, I
Whereas
guess you get
in
a
an
nice little
English is going
hybrid
to be more
style
balanced.
Yeah.
where you've got an English yeast, you've got those yeast esters, but an American hop character.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's
Cascade is so widely used in English bitters now. It's
Really?
Yeah.
I can
Man.
see
I know
that.
it's almost sacrilege to me, but
No, I'm right there with you.
I've done it. I didn't enjoy it, but I've done it.
No, well,
I tried
here's
it.
the thing. I mean, there's nothing to say that an American brewer cannot brew an English style beer, and there's nothing to say that a British brewer cannot brew an American style beer.
No. And
Um,
honestly, I think having taken the BGCP course from our good friend, the Master Judge, James,
I also
James
took the
Law.
course from him.
that we should get away from the whole noble hop versus American hop.
Absolutely.
They're all hops,
Mm-hmm.
but we should set them into flavor categories more than anything
Yeah.
I can
else.
see that.
At the
yeah.
end of the day, the biggest takeaway from this entire conversation will be call your beer what it is and
Yes.
sell your beer as what it is. If you're giving me an ESB, it better damn well have English hops in it. If it doesn't have English hops in it, it's probably not an ESB. And I would extend that a little bit and say if it doesn't have English crystal malts in it, it's probably not
that's
not a strong bitter.
English crystal malts are.
That's what makes
Yeah.
an ESB. That's what makes a strong bitter.
I'm going to agree with you, but loosely, in that some of those flavors are available in non-English varieties.
Oh, absolutely.
So you need to have those characteristically
Yeah.
English flavors in your beer, whether it's hop or a malt variety.
Yeah, so I will caveat by saying this: professional brewers, home brewers, if you brew a beer that you're targeting an American IPA, and it doesn't taste like an American IPA and it tastes like an English IPA,
You made an English IPA.
you
on
made an
accident.
English IPA.
Yeah,
Don't worry about what you tried to brew. What is the beer that you made?
and that is something that I
know?
have found.
And if you're doing those
in-
for competition, what did you brew?
What
Not
did you
Not
brew?
what did you intend
Yeah,
to brew?
exactly.
Yes,
What
that's
did you
something
brew?
that I've
Maybe you
identified.
didn't do it right, but yeah.
As an example, I tried to make a wheat wine, and by definition, I made a wheat wine. However, it tasted like a golden ale.
yeah, I don't care what's in your beer.
Won an
I
award
care
on a
what I'm
golden ale. I
tasting.
don't care.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, that's
Honestly.
fine.
Straight up.
All right, so I think we're pretty much done with all the ESBs and the strong bitters and the English pale ales and the
And we've
everything else that we've
found
got to
some
cover,
interesting
right?
ideas. in
Yeah,
this.
I think we've covered all sorts of nuances here. We've covered that there's many ways to brew a beer. There's many ingredients that you can use to make a strong bitter. I think there's, although the guidelines are fairly wide open, there are certain areas that you can go into and certain areas that you can't go into, and ways to make your beers pop. It's always a much more in-depth subject to talk about, but we probably need to talk about water a little bit at some point.
Yes.
That's
That
coming
might
up.
be
Absolutely.
That's
that might be
definitely
something for another
There's a
show.
ton of
but
stuff more to go into, but again, we run out of time. At
Yeah,
a certain
that's
point,
it.
guys,
So-
you know.
Yeah.
Like I say, Austin, thank you for coming in from
Yeah, thanks, man.
Denton
Thank
County
you for
Brewing
having
Company.
me.
Appreciate it,
And,
Brian.
water sounds like I got to come back.
Yeah, it sounds that
fun.
way. Yeah.
Or hey,
Yeah.
maybe that's what we talk about when they come to Denton.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Do a
Come
remote-
to Denton.
remote show.
There's a great
Yeah.
idea.
Brian, thank you.
Thank y'all
and
very much.
Thank
We-
you for coming in.
sincerely
Brian
appreciate
obviously
y'all.
represents the Denton County Homebrewers Guild,
Yes,
DCHG.
Yes, sir.
Everybody else, appreciate you being here. In closing, thank you for listening to Come Brew It Radio. In future episodes, we're going to taste some of our stouts. Next episode is going to be talking about more of the standard stouts, not so much of the Imperials and the other stuff, but more of our standard stouts. We've got many of our team here that are brewing up stouts ready for next episode.
So tasty.
Again, underappreciated. You know, just basic,
Yeah.
basic, simple stout. I mean,
Can't beat it, right?
everything
It-
doesn't
it's-
have to be barrel aged and
It's
Yeah.
hard to find
And-
a
yeah,
base
you know,
stout
and
like,
it's
recipe.
all-
just give me a stout.
Yeah, it's all part of our make beer again.
I
you know?
love that idea.
Yeah,
Honestly,
it's-
we'd love to come back for more because we're all about that. Just make beer.
Yeah,
You want to prove to be a good brewer? Brew me a pilsner.
there you go. We don't.
nothing fancy. Just brew me a simple German or Czech pilsner. Like,
Yeah. We don't need
Yeah.
coconut, chocolate, coffee.
and there's nothing wrong with. I love.
No,
those,
that's
but-
right. Yeah, yeah,
But brew me a beer.
yeah,
You know, a beer flavored beer. I love those.
yeah. So we're planning on that. And stouts is going to be next episode towards the end of February. Please be sure to check out our Patreon account at patreon.com/Come and Brew It Radio. To help support the show, we have $2, $5, $10, and $20 options because every little bit helps. Plus, we want to reward you while we help keep the show going, get involved, and improve it. So, normally we would reward a lucky Patreon listener. We haven't done that tonight, but we will do double next time. We've got to get one or two things ironed out before we're able to do that. But I promise you, we will get you leveled out on that.
It'll be worth the wait.
Yeah, we appreciate
Yeah.
your support.
And like I say, you can sign up to be a patron at patreon.com/Come and Brew It Radio. Thanks again for listening to Come and Brew It Radio. Be sure to share with your friends and on social media. Give us some ratings on iTunes and Stitcher. And send any ideas or comments to info@texasbrewinginc.com. Also, of course, you can check in on our brew days with the guys on their Brew Focus Facebook pages at Brew with Stubby, Brew with Brando, Brew with Mikey B, Brew with Chris, and Brew with Nigel. Until next time, come and brew it.
Come and brew it.
Come and brew it.
Come and brew it.